Beijing's offer to Ottawa is shaking up the continent, a direct challenge to Washington's dominance and a new era for Canadian trade.
Breaking tonight, the global trade order has shattered. China just made a move that could redefine power across the Western Hemisphere.
Breaking tonight, the global trade order just shattered. China didn't wait, they pivoted. And what they're offering Canada right now, it's not just trade, it's a complete realignment of economic power in the Western Hemisphere. Tensions are exploding across the Pacific tonight. The United States attempted to dominate global trade through tariff threats, but instead of compliance, Beijing accelerated partnerships with every nation America tried to pressure. Everyone believed China would collapse under Trump's tariff regime. Financial analysts expected Beijing to capitulate within weeks. Trade experts assumed China had no choice but to accept American terms. They were all catastrophically incorrect. Beijing, November 2nd, 2025. Standing before international media, China's ambassador to Canada made a statement that electrified Ottawa. If two sides have enough competitive products, why not make this trade triple what we already have now? Translation: China just told Washington that American economic dominance is over. And what happened next? The nation that built the world's second largest economy reveals exactly why patience defeats arrogance, why strategy demolishes threats, and why Canada just became the most valuable trading partner in North America. You're watching a geopolitical earthquake unfold in real time. The numbers don't lie. Chinese exports to the United States, down 27%. Chinese exports to the European Union, up 14%. Chinese exports to Asia, surging 16%. This isn't market adjustment. This is deliberate, strategic, calculated abandonment of the American market. China is playing three-dimensional chess while America can't even figure out checkers. Let me paint you the picture Washington doesn't want you to see. Donald Trump walks into the Oval Office in January 2025, immediately declares economic war on China, ratchets tariffs to obscene levels, at one point exceeding 100% on Chinese goods. Beijing doesn't panic. They don't threaten. They don't make bombastic social media posts. They simply redirect every single shipping container that would have gone to Los Angeles and send it to Rotterdam instead, to Singapore, to Vancouver. And Trump, he declares victory. We have a fantastic deal with China, he announces after being forced to drop tariffs from 100% to 47%, because China threatened to cut off critical mineral exports that would literally shut down American manufacturing within 2 weeks. Let me translate that for you. Trump created a crisis, made it worse, partially cleaned up his own mess, and then called it the art of the deal. That's not negotiation. That's economic self-destruction with a victory lap. Here's what really happened behind those tariff announcements. The United States hit $38 trillion in national debt in October 2025. Not $37 trillion. $38 trillion. They added $1 trillion of debt in just 3 months. August to October. $1 trillion. That's not economic management. That's freefall. And Trump's solution? Tariff everyone. Tax imports. Raise money by threatening allies and adversaries alike. There's just one catastrophic problem with that strategy. When your spokesperson is an arrogant child who insults everyone, countries don't negotiate with you. They leave. And that's exactly what's happening. The entire world has learned the same lesson in 2025. Don't engage with Trump's tantrums. Just smile, nod, and quietly build trade relationships that exclude America entirely. It's the geopolitical equivalent of letting the angry toddler scream in the corner while the adults have a productive conversation in the next room. Now watch what China did next, because this is where it gets absolutely brilliant. They didn't just pivot away from America, they specifically targeted America's most integrated trading partner, Canada, and they made an offer that Ottawa can't possibly ignore. The Trans Mountain Pipeline came online in 2024, capable of moving 850,000 barrels of oil per day. Guess who became the number one customer? China. Not gradually, immediately. The graph tells the entire story. For 10 years, China imported virtually zero oil from Canada. Then Trans Mountain opens, and that white line on the chart starts climbing, while the blue line representing American purchases drops like a stone. China isn't buying Canadian oil because it's convenient. They're buying Canadian oil instead of American oil. Deliberately. Strategically. They're sending a message to Washington that says, you want a trade war? Fine. We'll spend our money in Canada. And that's just oil. The Chinese ambassador just went on Canadian television and said, China is ready to triple Not double, triple trade with Canada if Ottawa is willing to engage. Triple. Do you understand the magnitude of what's being offered here? The Chinese economy is 10 times the size of Canada's. They're the world's manufacturing powerhouse. They're offering to become Canada's primary trading partner at the exact moment when America is actively trying to destroy Canadian industries. Trump literally told Canada, "We don't need your cars. We don't need your milk. Why don't you just become the 51st state?" That's not alliance management. That's bullying. And China just walked up to Canada and said, "We'll take everything America doesn't want, and we'll pay you properly for it." Prime Minister Carney met with Chinese President Xi Jinping at the recent Asia Summit. Then he met with the Chinese ambassador. The message from Ottawa? We're ready to tackle irritants in the Canada-China relationship. Translation? We're open for business. Carney announced he wants to double non-American exports over the next decade. China responded, "Why stop at double? Let's go for triple." This is happening right now. While American politicians argue about whether Canada is a security threat, China is building the economic relationship that will define North America's future. But here's the complication you need to understand. Canada's auto industry is deeply integrated with the United States. Opening Canadian markets to Chinese electric vehicles isn't a simple decision. It requires careful negotiation. It means potentially allowing Chinese EVs into Canada in exchange for something substantial. Maybe Chinese companies building manufacturing plants in Canada, maybe sourcing Canadian materials for batteries, maybe creating a supply chain that benefits Canadian workers while giving China access to North American markets. This is the negotiation that will determine whether Canada emerges from the Trump era stronger or weaker. Because make no mistake, America under Trump is actively working to destroy Canadian economic independence. They want Canada dependent, compliant, and grateful for whatever scraps Washington decides to throw north. China is offering the opposite: partnership, mutual benefit, respect, and massive economic opportunity. The contrast couldn't be more stark. On one side, you have Donald Trump posting incoherent rants on social media, threatening allies, adding $1 trillion in debt every 3 months, and wondering why the world is turning away from America. On the other side, you have Xi Jinping saying nothing publicly, making no threats, just quietly redirecting the world's second largest economy toward every country that America alienates. One strategy is rage and chaos. The other is patience and precision. And the results? Undeniable. Chinese exports to America are collapsing. Chinese exports to everyone else are surging. Canada is suddenly receiving offers that would have been unthinkable 5 years ago. The global trade order isn't shifting. It's being completely reconstructed, and America is being systematically excluded from the new architecture. Not because countries hate America, because they can't work with someone who treats every negotiation like a schoolyard fight. You know what's fascinating? None of this required military action, no invasions, no coups, no dramatic speeches. China simply redirected shipping routes, signed new contracts, and made polite offers to countries that were being screamed at by Washington. That's it. That's the entire strategy, and it's working spectacularly because Trump fundamentally misunderstands how modern economics functions. You can't bully your way to prosperity when other options exist, and China just became the other option for every country on Earth. So Canada faces a choice: stay loyal to an alliance partner that calls us a security threat, that tries to absorb us as a 51st state, that threatens our industries and insults our leaders, or explore partnership with a country that's offering to triple our trade, that's already buying our oil, that's ready to negotiate mutually beneficial deals. It's not actually a difficult choice when you lay it out that clearly. The big question, the one that keeps Ottawa up at night, is whether this can be done without completely destroying the American relationship. Can Canada diversify toward China while maintaining enough economic ties with the United States to avoid retaliation? Maybe. It requires careful diplomacy. It requires being smart, strategic, and incredibly patient. It requires being everything Trump isn't. And that might be Canada's biggest advantage right now. Because while America flails around breaking relationships, Canada can be the calm, professional, reliable partner that everyone wants to work with. The country that doesn't make threats. The country that negotiates fairly. The country that keeps its word. In a world where the previous hegemon is having a very public mental breakdown, there's enormous value in being stable. China sees that. That's why they're making these offers. They know Canada is looking for options. They know Trump has pushed Ottawa to the breaking point. They know this is the moment when decades of automatic Canadian alignment with Washington might finally crack. And they're offering exactly what Canada needs at exactly the right moment. That's not coincidence. That's strategy. Here's what happens next. Either Canada takes this opportunity and begins building substantial trade relationships with China, creating economic independence that makes American threats irrelevant, or Canada stays frozen in fear, hoping America returns to sanity, watching opportunities disappear while Chinese shipping containers go to Mexico instead. One path leads to sovereignty, the other leads to subservience. The world is watching this moment, because if Canada successfully pivots toward China, every other American ally will know it's possible. Australia, Japan, South Korea, all of them dealing with Trump's chaos, all of them looking for alternatives. Canada could be the example that breaks American economic dominance permanently, or Canada could be the cautionary tale of a country too afraid to seize the moment. The choice is Ottawa's, but the offer is real. China wants to triple trade with Canada. They're already buying our oil. They're ready to negotiate on everything else. The door's open. The question is whether Canada has the courage to walk through it.